A very good day to everyone present. Vignesh Mehta is a senior manager in Yes Bank, specializing in financial markets, which involves modeling and analytics. He enjoys challenging roles in investment analysis, treasury, and financial risk management. At work and during projects that he has undertaken till date, he has had good exposure in the fields of treasury, credit, and market risk management. He has done an MBA in finance and strategy. He has constantly been working on entrepreneurial initiatives since then. On that note, I request Mr. Mehta to commence the webinar.
A very warm regards from Pristine. The webinar topic which we are going to look today is that 75% of the American professionals rely on business analysts. With this, we are going to look at what does a business analyst exactly do and what is a career path if one was to pursue a course in business analysis. So to begin with, let us look at the agenda of this webinar. So we are going to look at what is business analytics, what are the career options, and what is the career growth pattern if one is to pursue a career in business analytics. Next, we are going to specifically look at the business analytics sector outlook, especially in US and Toronto, because we are looking at these two regions specifically today. Once we look at the sector outlook, then we are going to look at what is EduPristine's Business Analytics MasterClass course, which we are going to launch in US, Toronto, and Los Angeles. What are the rewards which can be reaped after the Business Analytics Masterclass? And finally, we are going to look at some details about the batch we are starting and some history of what EduPristine is all about. So let us start with basically what is business analytics. Now, business analytics, if you were to start with, the first thing which will come to my mind would be the typical example of Walmart or Amazon. Now, Walmart has got close to 9,000 stores across the globe, which have close to storage of 10,000 to 100,000 SKUs. Basically, it generates millions of transactions every second. Now, if you were to look at the market share occupied by Walmart, it is by far the highest, especially in US. It occupies, or it accounts for 64% of the market share, which is then followed by its competitors like BJ Wholesale, Costco Wholesale, Super Target, etc. Now, the reason, if one was to understand why Walmart has been able to acquire such a huge market share in such a competitive market, is that they have got a analytical business model to understand the customer tastes and preferences, based on which they are continuously able to beat their competitors and gain the market share. The next example which comes to my mind when I'm looking about, or when I'm talking about loads of data, is a classic example of Amazon. Now, Amazon has got close to 225 million customers across the globe, with close to 10 million transactions on a typical busy day. So again, if we were to look at how does Amazon handle the entire customer traffic, then one can clearly understand that it has got use of, or it makes use of, big data analytics to analyze its customer demand pattern, and based on the customer demand pattern, they try to forecast as to what the customer has been looking for and what is the likely demand of the different needs the customer will have in the future. So with this, I am going to give you a brief introduction to what is business analytics, which means that if you have got some data which has been recorded, how you can use this data to make some future projections, which means that we are referring to a concept of information explosion. the use of the data, we have to make some future decisions, which means that the data has to be analyzed, and based on those analysis we have to arrive at some business decisions. Basically, the use of this data is going to be to improve the cost efficiency, to increase profits, and to meet the customer needs. Now, technological advancements have improved the ability to record and understand the data. So finally, collection of data, analysis of data, and finally using this data analysis to make business decisions is called business analytics. So it's a combination of data collection and data storage, data analysis using some complex statistical techniques, and using this analysis to make business decisions, which can be completely said to be a business analytics model. Now, next we are going to look at what is the purpose of business analytics. So if you were to look at this bottom-up approach, then the first purpose is to streamline the data so that it can be used in the correct manner and we can have the maximum business advantage. The next purpose is to increase the efficiency by zeroing in on the poorly performing segments, which means that we can target the segments which are not doing correctly or which are not performing as expected, and based on the data which we have collected, we can then probably make future decisions as to how we can improve the performance. The next purpose would be to improve the profits or the bottom line by identifying and focusing on high margin businesses, which finally leads to reverse engineering, increasing the revenue streams and the risk taking capabilities. Which means that if I got the right kind of data stored with me and if I got the right data analysis present with me, my risk taking capability increases, because at the back of the mind I know that what I have seen in the past can help me to improve my future. Now, Google, for that matter, processes 1 million GB of data every year. If you were to look at FB, 30 billion pieces of content are shared every month. Walmart makes use of 2.8 trillion rows of data. So these are the kind of data which we are referring to, and when we are looking at such huge data sets, this is referred to as nothing but big data, which is the hot topic in the data analytics market. So big data consists of voluminous data, variability based data, and veracity based data. Now, volume means that the kind of data which you are going to handle is going to be very large, or it is going to be huge. It is going to be voluminous, which means that big data techniques cannot be implemented using normal data algorithms. We need to have complex algorithms to handle such huge data. Next, it is going to be a variable data, which means that data is going to be from different sources. Probably the data may not stack up together. We may have to look at data in different zones and try to combine this data to arrive at some data analysis. And finally, this data is going to have high amount of veracity. Now, till 2009, there was just 0.79 zettabytes of data in the world. In 2012, there was close to 2.4 zettabytes of data in the world. So in 2010, it was 1.2 zettabytes, which further increased to 2.4 zettabytes of data in the world in 2012. And in 2015, this number, which is written here as 2.37, is likely to increase to 4.1 zettabytes of data, according to a latest survey done by Google, which means that this was an expectation which was done by some of the data scientists a year back, that we were expecting that in 2015 we would be having close to 2.4 zettabytes of data. However, that limit has already been reached last year, that is in early 2013 or in the end of 2012. Now, next we must try to understand that who are the typical users of this big data. So big data can be used in almost each and every industry. It is used in the retail space, it is used in the airline industry, it is also used in the BFSI segment, in the telecom sector, and also in the technology domain. Now, we have just had a flavor of what business analytics is all about. So basically, business analytics is about data management and data storage, which is the first step. The second and the most important step is the data analysis, and the third step is decision making based on this analysis. With this, let us look at some of the careers which one can pursue if he is looking at business analytics. So one might have come across SAP business analyst, one may have come across Net Java analyst, one may have come across a business system analyst, one may also have come across Oracle database management analyst. All these are career streams, or all these are kind of roles which one can look at if one wants to pursue a career in business analytics. So typically, business analysts will find their place in almost each and every domain. You will find business analysts in the BFSI domain, you will find them in the telecom domain, you will find them in the IT domain, you will also find them in industries like pharma, retail, and airlines. So now let's come to the numbers. If I were to be a business analyst, how much I'm going to make? So as per the latest survey, business analysts make close to 77,000 USD, which is a survey which was done just as on Jan 8, 2014. Typically, this is a mean salary. Typically, the salaries range between 60,000 USD to 85,000 USD. Now, depending upon the industry sector an analyst is employed, the salary will keep on varying. So if an analyst is working within the management consultancy domain with companies like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Bain, Booz Allen Hamilton, then one can clearly expect a salary in the range of 70,000 USD. If one is working with the retail giants like Walmart, Tesco, Carrefour, the salaries tend to be a bit low because of the fact that when you are working with such retail giants, you are expected to work more on the database management part and not much on the data analysis part. One must clearly understand that data analysis will always be paid higher compared to database management, because that is the step which results in decision making. Typically, data analysis will be done moreover in management consultancies, where the consultants are advising the client on the business strategies. Again, business analysts in the banking and the insurance domain make close to 60,000 USD or 60,000 pounds if you are talking in UK. Again, accountants make close to 42,000 pounds or close to 55 to 57,000 USD, especially working with the big four companies like Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, and Ernst & Young. Now, these big four companies have been recruiting business analysts big time in the past 1 year, because there are a lot of projects which they have been getting, especially from the retail and the BFSI clients, for which they continuously need business analysts. So if I were to be a business analyst, I can safely assume that I will be making something between a 75,000 or a 72,500 USD to 85,000 USD. That is typically the range will be between 70,000 to 85,000 USD, which is pretty decent looking at what an tier 2B school MBA in US is offered, or for that matter what salaries are MS in engineering offered, because they are also offered salaries in this range. which means that doing a course in business analytics can help me get similar kind of salaries compared to a postgraduate. So next, let us look at the BA sector outlook. So currently there is positive hiring activity which has been seen for the past 10 to 12 months. There has been heavy demand, especially in the finance, retail and technology sector. Companies in current market expect the employees not to be multi-skilled, but at the same time to be multitasked. Now in terms of the salary expectations, average rise in salaries in the finance sector is expected to be in the range of 8% to 10%. Average bonus for the employees is likely to be in the range of 12% to 18%, and the salaries, especially for business analysts, is expected to rise sharply since there is a talent shortfall. Now, if you were to look at what is expected in the next 12 months, hiring is likely to remain strong for the next 12 to 15 months due to the economic recovery in US and Europe. There are large reforms in this segment which provide evidence of output and performance shifting to the analytics domain. In the long run, the number of jobs looks to grow faster than the talent available in the market. So whenever I am looking at any career option, these are the factors which I need to look at, that what is the current talent pool available in the market and what are the number of jobs available in the market. As long as there is a demand supply mismatch, one can expect that if there is a higher demand compared to the supply, one can clearly expect to have a high salary for that job. Now this is exactly the case with business analytics. Since it is a very specialized field, you might not be having sufficient supply to cater to the demand. So typically one enters as a junior analyst, which is nothing but an entry level job. Typically as a junior analyst, one can expect a salary in the range of 40,000 to 52,500 USD. That is in the range of 40 to 53k USD. That is what we have seen. The next transition or the next jump in this hierarchy is a junior analyst becoming an analyst. As an analyst, we have already seen that salaries are in the range of 60,000 to 75,000 USD. Again, the next jump is a associate, which is nothing like a senior level analyst. Typically for associates, the salary range will be close to 75,000 USD to 95 to 100,000 USD. Typically an associate would possess close to 5 to 6 years of work experience, and once he gathers close to 7-8 years of work experience, the next transition would be an engagement manager. So as you reach or as you move up the hierarchy, it's more of people handling skills which you need to develop over time and less of the analytical skills. So as a entry level analyst, you will be day in, day out doing some statistical analysis or looking at some queries or firing some queries to get the right data, store the right data. But as you move in the chain, you are expected to manage people who are good at analytics, which means that you have to get projects done on time, get the engagements done on time. So for a manager, typically the salaries range from 100,000 USD to close to 135 or 140,000 USD. So now let's come to the companies who typically hire business analysts in the BFSI space. So Visa, American Express, Deloitte, Accenture, these are the companies who have been hiring business analysts, especially for the BFSI domain. If we were to look at the technology domain, then we have IBM, Verizon, who have been typically hiring for technology or the telecom domain. Then if we were to look at the retail domain, we have got companies like Walmart, Carrefour, Tesco, who have been looking at the retail domain. Next is the management consultancy domain. We have got all the big consulting companies like BCG, the McKinsey, the Bains, the Booz Allen Hamilton, you've got Alvarez and Marshall, you've got PwC, you've got KPMG. All these consulting companies typically look for business analysts for their consulting projects. In the banking domain, you've got companies like Standard Chartered, you've got HSBC PLC, you've got Citibank, you've got Bank of America, Wells Fargo. These are the typical banks who have been looking at business analysts because they've got huge credit card portfolios, they've got huge mortgage portfolios which need to be analyzed to understand the delinquencies, which is typically done using business analytics tools. So with this, we are now going to look at EduPristine's Business Analytics Masterclass, which we are planning to launch in Los Angeles and Toronto. So this is going to be an extensive classroom training. One will be trained by highly proficient industry experts. So all the faculty in EduPristine belong to the industry. They have had close to 5 to 8 years of experience in the industry, and they've got excellent academic credentials as well. Next, we will be having an access to the online material, which means that students who have missed out the classroom lectures, they can again view that, or they can again revise those concepts using the online material. We have personal doubt clearing sessions, which means that one can avail personalized attention through one-on-one doubt clearing sessions. And finally, we have got a 24/7 access to discussion forums, which means that there are forums to interact with the faculty and the fellow students and get the doubts cleared. One can post the doubt and expect that he will get the solution within the next 24 to 36 hours. So what can one expect in terms of the rewards which can be reaped after the Business Analytics Masterclass? So basically it helps to improve the decision making process. It speeds up the decision making process. It helps to align better with the strategy, helps realize cost efficiency, it improves competitiveness, it increases revenues. Again, it produces a single and a unified view of enterprise information, because business analytics also takes into account the right ways of storing data so that they can be used in the future for business decisions. And finally, it helps to share information with a wider audience. So we are going to first look at an example of business analytics before we discuss the details about the batch which is going to start in Los Angeles and Toronto. So let us look at an example how business analytics is used to analyze the data. So this is a typical case study which we are looking at. So Romanov, an analytics consultant, works with Credit One Bank. His manager gave him a list containing the names of bank's customers. He has been asked to pull the information from the bank's database pertaining to the customer list. The information will be for the credit cards issued by the bank, which means that he needs to define the variable types and the type of value each one of them will contain. Now Romanov is a fresher who has just started his professional career and does not have a very good understanding about the different variable types. So if he has approached you and asked for your help in categorizing the different variables, what will we do as a business analyst? So typically the bank data would be consisting of fields like name of customer, the customer ID, the number of credit cards the customer holds, what is the age of the customer, the gender, marital status, the annual salary, and finally the monthly credit card usage. Now for each of these categories or for each of these variables, we want to understand what is the value stored in the database field and what is this variable type. So this is a typical data which one can look or which one can find in the bank database. So we have got customer names, the IDs, the number of credit cards they hold, their ages as on last birthday, the gender, the marital status, annual salary, and the credit card usage. Now, each of these fields has been stored with a specific view in mind. We will be looking at how each of these fields are used for future analysis. So basically, the number of credit cards gives you an idea as to what options does the customer have. So if he has got multiple credit cards, which means that he may not be making use of your credit card every time. On the other hand, if he has got a single credit card, that means that he is completely dependent on your credit card. Next, his age plays an important role because age determines the spending pattern for customers. So for customers in the age group of 25 to 35, the typical spending pattern will be more on apparels, luxurious goods, cars. Probably for customers who are in the age group of 40 to 55, typically their spending pattern will reduce, and at the same time the needs will change. Probably they will be making more use of credit cards to make payment of household utilities, children fees, insurance premiums, health insurance purchases, etc. Next, depending upon the annual salary, one can decide the credit limit which must be offered to the customer, and depending upon the credit card usage, one can decide if there have to be any additional offers which must be offered to that user. So each of these data points has been stored with a specific view in mind, which means that will be used to make some decision making in the future. So the value stored will be the name of the individual customer, then the unique identifier, then the number of credit cards is going to be a numeric variable. Again, the age of customer will be a number. Now the gender of the customer is going to be a categorical variable, which means that it is not going to assume any numerical value. It's going to be a choice between male and female. Similarly, the marital status of the customer is again going to be split into married, divorced, and never married. The annual salary is again going to be a pure number because it's a pure amount as to how much one is receiving. And finally, again, the monthly credit card usage will be a variable which will be low, medium, high, or very high depending upon how much usage he is doing on average. So before we look at the variable types which are going to be used to store each of these categories, let us look at in general how data consists or how data is split. Data is generally split into numerical variables and categorical variables. So numerical variables can be further split into either continuous variables or discrete variables, which means that continuous variables can be measured or the data is continuous in nature. On the other hand, discrete is something where data can be counted or we only find data points at some specific intervals. So integers will be a discrete variable, whereas measurement of probably temperature or measurement of any quantity which is continuous in nature will give rise to a continuous variable. Similarly, categorical variables can be divided into either binary variables, nominal categorical variables, and the ordinal categorical variables. So the binary variable is split into two categories, either it is 0 or either it's 1. Nominal variables are split into several unordered categories. So if one was to say that the variable can take the value either married, divorced, or not married, now in this case they are not forming any order, or one cannot interpret that which of these variables will have higher preference or lower preference, which means that they are having an unordered category. On the other hand, ordinal variables have got ordered categories, which means that if one was asked to give a response, then one can say that 1 is least likely, 2 is more likely, and 3 is most likely, which means that in this case one can interpret that as one moves from the value of 1 to 3, the preference increases, or in other words, the categories are ordered in nature. Now once you've got access to this data, one must try to summarize this data, because it's not possible to look at data in detail. One has to just summarize the data, and probably some summary of this data will help us understand about the characteristics of the data, and probably also help us do some data analysis which can be used in decision making. So one can make use of frequency distributions, cumulative frequency distributions, stem leaf diagrams, histograms, pie charts, line plots to summarize the data. So this is a graphical way of summarizing data. One can also make use of statistics like mean, mode, median, range, quartiles to summarize the data. After summarizing the data, one must look at analyzing this data and how this data can be used for decision making. So once you have summarized the data and once you have computed the statistics like mean, mode, median, one must try to understand how this can be used at decision making, which means that one can do even further detailed statistical analysis using techniques like regression, using techniques like discriminant analysis, principal component analysis, which are all different kind of techniques which are used in data analysis and market research. With this, we have just looked at a typical example which one can relate to a business analyst. Now we are going to discuss the details about the EduPristine MasterClass batch for business analytics. So I'll just come to the details of the batch. So we are starting a new batch in Los Angeles. The dates are yet to be announced. Depending upon the registrations or the interest we receive from the students, we'll be shortly announcing the dates. Similarly, for the batch in Toronto, depending upon the response, we'll be announcing the dates. Now, this is a 4-day exclusive masterclass. So it's a 4-day extensive classroom training, which is going to cost USD 11.99. We can also conduct corporate trainings in case our customers or in case our clients wanted to get it done. So for this, the relevant person with whom you need to get in touch is Austin Fernandez. His email ID is austin@edupristine.com, and his contact number has been provided in this slide. So before we end this session or in this webinar, I would just want to share as to what EduPristine is all about and the kind of credentials the trainers and the people at EduPristine hold. So we are the leading training provider for international certifications like the CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst, the FRM, which is the Financial Risk Management Program, and the PRM, which is the Professional Risk Management Program. We have also pioneered skill-oriented finance courses in India. So we look at financial modeling using Excel and business analytics. We are offering more than 25 courses either through classroom trainings, online videos, crash courses, or webinars. Now in terms of our investors, Axel Partners, who are one of the initial investors in Facebook, they are also investors in Pristine. We have got Dr. Mark Mobius from Franklin Templeton and Mr. Rajesh Sehgal from Franklin Templeton, who also are investors in Pristine or in EduPristine. Now the founder directors, Mr. Atul Kumar, Mr. Paramdeep Singh, Mr. Pawan Prabhat, and Sarita have got experience in companies like Goldman, Standard Chartered, Accenture, S&P, and Reliance Private Equity. We have got a faculty pool of more than 1,000 professionals across locations having excellent credentials from the best B schools. Now we have trained more than 10,000 finance professionals and students across the world. We have done corporate trainings with Ernst & Young, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Mizuho, Credit Suisse, Franklin Templeton, HSBC. We've done some academic trainings at National University of Singapore, IIM Calcutta, FMS, which is the Faculty of Management Studies, and ISB Hyderabad. So these are some of the leading educational institutes where we have done our academic trainings, and even on the corporate side, we have done corporate trainings with some of the leading banks or consulting firms. We have got professionals from more than 40 countries across the globe who have taken training from EduPristine. So be it Asia, be it Europe, be it Latin America, there are students who attend the Pristine trainings. So EduPristine also does trainings on some of the finance and the analytic topics. So we provide trainings, or we cover topics of credit risk modeling, equity investments, equity valuation, M&A, market risk, CFA, FRM, you got corporate finance, you got Basel III regulations, you got business analytics, you got economics and markets, be it any topic you say in finance, and we will be covering it via some of our program. With this, I would like to end this webinar, and if you have got any questions, I would be more than happy to take the questions on business analytics. Any questions? In case you want to post us, or in case you have got any doubts, please feel free to mail it across to us, or even get in touch with us. We will be more than happy to help you understand this course in detail and how it will help you from your career viewpoint. Any questions? Okay, I think with this we will end this session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you everyone for being a part of this webinar. If you have any queries whatsoever, you can always get back to us. Our website is edupristine.com/ca. We look forward to seeing you soon. Stay tuned for the next set of webinars which are already being listed. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Mehta.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.